All right, hello everyone, and welcome to MSAHA Basketball Weekly. I am Trellis Williams, and joining us, of course, is our co-host, Ollie Hammonds. He's beat writer for TSJW Network, representing the Laurel Knighthawks. He also plays for the Laurel Knighthawks as well. Ollie, what's going on, man?
Nothing. I'm just excited to get this episode 2 started. Let's go.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with a recap of the last week since our last show here in MSAHA Basketball. But first, I'm going to tell you about that MSAHA League Pass. So the League Pass, you have many games throughout the conference. Most games throughout the conference will be on the League Pass. You can get on there and pick it up, or you can buy games individually as well. But that is definitely a good place to find games around the conference. The MSAHA League Pass, you can find it tsjwnetwork.net/watch. Go check it out. All right, so recap of the last week. So start off with some 16U action. So the Hattiesburg Forerunners got them another big 16U win by coming back and beating the Jackson Victors 51-46. The Victors were up most of that game, but Hattiesburg was able to take the win. And we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, Ollie, where we were saying that Hattiesburg is very much a sleeper team there in the 16Us. They're sitting at the 7th seed, but they just have been close in all their losses. What did you see from that ball game?
Hattiesburg is very well balanced in a lot of ways, but I think a big key advantage they have over Jackson is size, really. The point guard is taller than one of their biggest men. Hattiesburg's point guard is probably taller than Jackson's biggest man in 16U. Hattiesburg's very good at shooting the three, right? When Laurel went to play them, that's where they killed us, right? The three-pointer, that was most of their points. And the funniest thing is that that's the same thing with 16U. It was a good game because, and they're different in a lot of ways, but in a couple ways they're kind of the same team in that they have good ball handlers, good three-point shooters, and a couple good guys who can score down low. And I think it could have gone either way, and that time it went Hattiesburg's way.
Yeah, because the Victors, they were leading most of the game, and Hattiesburg was able to come back, so that definitely showed that Jackson could have won the game. They just didn't in that situation. Also, another big game from the 16U was that the PCA Paladins defeated the Laurel Knighthawks, but in very narrow fashion, and you were a part of this game. 44-41, Laurel missed the last-second shot that would have tied the game, but a very close game. PCA remains undefeated, 5-0 in the conference. They hold on to that 2 seed. But Laurel right there at the 4 seed, but know that they could have beaten the PCA Paladins as they led in a good portion of the game as well. What did you think about that game? I know you weren't too happy about it on a personal level, but just what did you see from that contest?
I wasn't too happy, but I was just fine with that outcome. Our 16U team's been kind of through a bit of a rough beginner of the season. We haven't really played fantastic basketball. We've been in a lot of games, but we just haven't played great. I think a big showing of that was our loss to Scott County. We just played terribly. But this game really showed the true Knighthawks JV team, in my opinion. It showed we gelled together, played great team basketball. In that game, for both teams, really, I can't point to one player that didn't have a good game. PCA executed their game plan well. We did too. It was just really kind of a let's see what happens. PCA got the victory there. Last second shot by Cooper Goodwin. That's exactly what we wanted, right? That's exactly what you want. You want your three-point shooter, Cooper Goodwin, a player who's really kind of had a breakout season in 14U and 16U. He's been fantastic this season for the Knighthawks, and I think that's who you want to shoot that shot, and he did. He missed it. That's fine. Get up, dust yourself off, and move on to the next game.
For sure. And from PCA's perspective, they know that they are a vulnerable team, even though they were able to take some adversity and take that win. what do you think about PCA's chances in the 16U overall in the season? I mean, obviously they have very good chances. They're undefeated. Where do you see where they stand in the conference?
I think you can't get in basketball too comfortable with where you are, right? You have to always strive to be better. And I think PCA got a bit of a wake-up call. They got shown that they need to keep moving. They need to keep improving their team. They're a very good basketball team, and I feel like they got a little too comfortable with knowing that they're undefeated, and they got shown some weaknesses, and I feel like they're going to fix them. They're a good basketball team with great coaching too. They're going to fix their problems and their mistakes. Do I think that this means that there's doom for PCA? Absolutely not. I think they're still going to be a fantastic team and a juggernaut in the 16U boys, but I think they found some things to fix.
Yeah, so moving on over to the 18U girls, so the Laurel Lady Hawks just confirming their top status in the MSAHA by defeating the defending champions PCA Paladins 39-20. They just kind of handled them in that game. But when the game happened and the game finished, it just was kind of like, okay, another win for Laurel and stuff. But when you think about that, Laurel's not won girls in a long time, especially against PCA, who have won the last 2 championships. What did you think about that game?
We talked about it in the last show, how Laurel has played together for so long that I think that just shows that their camaraderie means that they can beat anybody, right? PCA is a very, very good basketball team. They're defending champs, back-to-back champions, looking for a three-peat. But I think Laurel has and Laurel's very athletic too. They can run up and down the court from first quarter to the last buzzer and just be fine. I think Laurel just showed its dominance. And, the Laurel 18U girls have had some struggles in the years past. They've gotten some higher seeding that haven't had much success in the playoffs, but I think this is their year.
Yeah, and now we're going to check in on our game of the week from last time. That was the PCA Paladins and the Laurel Knighthawks. We did go down there and call that one. The PCA Paladins just went on a tear. Had a great game. Had good games from all guys. Colin Erickson with 26 points. Timothy Singletary getting in, scoring at the beginning. Gabe McDonald doing a lot of good damage and stuff. Just all across the board. The PCA Paladins played well. Knighthawks looked a little flat. Paladins got them pretty good, winning 72-57. So now PCA holding on to that number 1 spot, and Laurel sliding down to the number 2 spot, the defending champions, Laurel. And this game, you could feel it in the atmosphere. This was a rematch of last year's MSAHA finals, and it had a playoff atmosphere to it. What did you think about that game?
I think last year Laurel earned a lot of respect from PCA. And we saw that. You wrote about it in your article, how PCA's coach kept his starters in for a while there because he remembered the playoffs where Laurel came back, right? PCA and Laurel, they're kind of there's a bit of a rivalry starting up, you know what I mean? And they respect each other. And I think PCA just came out, executed the game plan beautifully. Fantastic. Even in every possession, even if they didn't score every possession, when they came down to the other end of the court, you felt like they still did their job, right? They still executed what the play was. They executed the game plan so well. And that's what happens when you execute the game plan. You play good basketball, right? Another thing that I don't think many people are going to think about when they look back at this game, but the full court press by PCA was outstanding, right? It really baffled the Knighthawks ball handlers. It was a very well executed defense, and I think that's the main word that PCA can take from that game: execution. They executed very well in that basketball game. Laurel, kind of the perfect storm, right? PCA plays probably one of their better basketball games of the year, and Laurel plays its worst basketball game I've ever seen that group play together. I've played with this specific group since 2019. I've been on the JV team with them, and I'm now moved up to varsity with them. They're always a team that's just going to come through. It's kind of expected at this point. but they choked, and that's the first time I've really ever seen them choke that bad. But I think it was a wake-up call. I think it showed them, hey, we got some room to improve. Yes, we're the defending champs, but that doesn't mean we're invincible, right? And they still hold the best record in the league, not conference record, but best record overall. But I think that they learned some, like PCA's JV team. I think Laurel's varsity team learned some things to work on, and I think that game's very valuable to them. I think that's going to be kind of a game that they're going to look back to a lot.
Yeah, that was a big one. Next time they play will be on January 15th down in Louisiana, and so that should be another good one as well. We've got a lot of good games coming up here in January. So next up, we're going to talk about generally what's going on in the standings of the conference and where we're moving around. But first, I want to talk to you about the TSJW Network website. And so please go check out the TSJW Network website, tsjwnetwork.net. That's where the scores, the standings, schedules, articles, and all kinds of good stuff from the MSAHA basketball right there on the TSJW Network website. Matter of fact, Ollie just wrote an article the other day. It was in the Nighthawk Beat about just how much of a wake up call he felt that game was, and so things like that are on the website, and they're running many articles on a weekly basis. So right now on 18U, as another thing that happened was on Friday night, the Muddy River Counselors and the Meridian Flyers matched up to play, and they started the 18U game, and Meridian went up, and due to some issues with the floor, some wet floor issues, they called the game short. Meridian took the win in 18U, but they did not play 16U boys or girls. So Meridian did take that win, moving solidly into that 3 spot in the conference. The Counselors 2-4, holding that 5 spot. So Meridian definitely in that 3 spot, right under Laurel, who's in that 2 spot with 1 loss. It's still up in the air. What are you thinking where the conference is going from there?
I think you can kind of solidify Meridian in a top 3 spot.
Yeah.
Mostly because they're just showing that they're consistent, right? They're a very consistent basketball team, and they're a good basketball team. I think you can slot PCA in the top 2 and maybe even Laurel in the top 2. I think the top of the bracket is pretty well established. But as we know, in MSAHA basketball, yes, it's good to be a higher rank, but when playoff time comes, all bets are off, right? It's great to have a higher seed, but it's always a neutral environment, so home court advantage really isn't a thing in the playoffs. It's really, like you said, it's up in the air. I think it's going to be interesting to see where Meridian lands and how Laurel rebounds from that game. How do they bounce back from that game? I think it's also going to be interesting to see if PCA can hold up this momentum that they have, right? They're coming off some big momentum. So I think, yes, 18U boys standings is in the air, but I feel like Meridian, Laurel, and PCA are pretty sure bet to be 1, 2, and 3. I don't know what order yet, but that'll be a pretty safe bet to put those 3 teams as the top 3 teams.
Yeah, and one key point that you mentioned is that it's usually a neutral environment here in the playoffs. Well, for 18U, it's all a neutral environment because the playoffs will be in Hattiesburg, and Hattiesburg is rolling with the 16U team. They do not have 18U boys, so you're talking about completely neutral for the 18U bracket there. And just like you were saying, the standings do mean something because you want to win during the regular season, and it also gives you confidence going into the game when you're the higher seed. But when it comes down to it, it's about what happens in that game when the time comes. And in the conference right now, I just see, especially 1 through 5, I just don't see you playing any one of those teams in there and feeling comfortable going into the game. It's going to take a good game to get the win, and so definitely, which makes it fun, makes me look forward to doing them there at the end of the season. And so then, obviously, we talked about the Lady Hawks firmly having the grip on the number 1 seed there in the conference. But it still is one game, so PCA can get back at them if they're able to get a win over them in Louisiana, but they're probably going to have to because Laurel's just kind of been handling it in the conference this year. But in 16U, that's where you just wonder. You have 1 through 8. It's a shuffle in there. Going to be a very competitive field. What are you thinking heading into the 16U playoffs about how competitive this field will be?
I think it's going to be really interesting. 18U boys, we talk about how seeding really doesn't matter. I think it seriously does not matter coming into playoff time for the 16U boys. Any of the lower seeds, I could see beating any of the top seeds, right? PCA and Muddy River up there at the top. They're very competitive teams. They play very kind of the same style of basketball. But I think a lot of teams are going to surprise a lot of people in the playoffs. I think Meridian's another one in 16U you got to kind of watch. Jackson, most definitely one in 16U. You have to watch. So it's going to be interesting come tournament time.
Yeah, so upcoming this week we do have some games in Hattiesburg with PCA and the Hattiesburg Forerunners. So obviously you're going to have some 16U girls action, some 16U boys action, some 18U girls action. So start off with talk about that 16U boys game. PCA and Hattiesburg. Last time 46-40 PCA won, but it was in Louisiana. This time you're talking about in Hattiesburg. What are you thinking heading into that game? That's another challenge for PCA.
I think they're gonna have to show up, right? They're gonna have to fix the things that they had going wrong in Laurel, like to fix the problems that they had in Laurel. I think that it's gonna be competitive, but I feel like PCA has the mental edge there, right? PCA, I feel like, has the mental edge. Yes, Hattiesburg's a good team, but I don't know if they're a strong enough team to take down PCA. I think this is an optimal opportunity for them to show that they are a strong enough team to take down PCA, but they're going to have to show a lot.
Yeah, because one thing I noticed in that Laurel and PCA game is that Laurel definitely used size to their advantage against PCA. And so that's one thing that the Laurel had the advantage over PCA was with size. Hattiesburg doesn't have that much size to use as an advantage against PCA. You know, what Hattiesburg does is they have guys who can drive hard to the basket, have guys who can shoot three-pointers. They're athletic and things like that, but they don't have like big guys like Laurel does. Laurel has a few big guys that they're able to use to get on PCA.
The same thing in every game Laurel plays in, right? I mean, in 16U, when you look around the conference, Laurel's the biggest team, right? They have, Braden Dry and Skylar Hayden. Those are two, monster guys that will go down and get rebounds, just hard points. They'll play great defense down low, and that's the one thing Laurel has an advantage over everybody.
Yeah, so that will bring us to our games of the week. So we have 2 games of the week this week. But before that, I just want to remind you to go ahead and subscribe to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. This is where you can get live stream games. These games of the week will be live streamed. Lord willing, as long as we're able to get it working, of course. But these games will be live streamed. We also have a lot of content, like obviously this MSAHA Basketball Weekly Podcast, and many other things get posted here to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. So please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. So now that brings us to our games of the week. And first, we've got January 3rd, so we're getting right on it. Monday night, we've got the Jackson Victors heading to Raymond, Mississippi to take on the Muddy River Counselors. Last time these two teams met, talking about 18U here. Last time these two teams met, Jackson got the win, 62-60, right there at the end on a layup right at the end of the ball game. Victors and Counselors look to get back on track as they hold right now. They hold the 4 and 5 seeds in the conference. Winner will hold that 4 seed, as right now the Victors are 2 and 3, Counselors are 2 and 4. What are you thinking going into that game, Ollie?
I think Muddy River has got to utilize Chris Parnell, right? Chris Parnell is going to be the biggest human on that court. He's very athletic. They have got to exploit their down low presence with Chris Parnell, right? They have got to score buckets off of down low points. They're both teams that can shoot the three. I think that's not going to be a problem in the game. The winner will be the person who has the most amount of points in the paint, right? Most amount of points in the paint, the most amount of rebounds. I think that's a big thing coming in this game for Muddy River to win, and a big thing for Jackson to win is to shut down Chris Parnell. I think Chris Parnell in this game is the focus for both teams.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point of view there, and as a matter of fact, that is a big thing definitely, because you get Parnell in there early, especially early. You always feel very good about that if you're a Counselors fan. But then you also have the thing where the counselors play a very wide open run and gun type style. Victors play a very 3-point shooting oriented style. And so it'd just be interesting to see how that game happens. Last time it was at Sunnybrook, so the Victors were hosting. This time it will be at B Hall at Hines Community College. So that game should be streamed on the TSJW network, so definitely check it out. So the second game, another Counselors game, is the Counselors have a tough week because they also will play the PCA Paladins on the 8th. So definitely a tough week scheduled here for the Counselors. But they will head down to Salem Heights to take on the Laurel Knighthawks the next day after the Victors game. And so that'll be an interesting one, as the last time the Laurel Knighthawks were able to win that one 66-59 in Raymond. But the Knighthawks right now, they're trying to bounce back from a loss to PCA. Counselors having another tough opponent, looking for a marquee win. So what are you thinking about that one?
I think Laurel has to stop the running game from Muddy River, right? Laurel has to stop the running game from Muddy River. They have to be able to run the floor. Muddy River's a very athletic team. They're not gonna tire out, right? They have a lot of endurance as well as speed. So you have got to shut down their full court offense, right? The full court running offense. I think for Muddy River, you have got to shut down Kai Welch. Kai Welch is a big time player for Laurel, and you have to shut him down. And I also think Muddy River, for them to win, they have got to execute their offense, which is shoot the three, right? They have got to shoot the three well. They have to shoot the three well. I mean, to win that basketball game, that's kind of the divider that you see. Yes, Laurel has some good 3-point shooters in, Silas Ensign and Jacob Moree. Muddy River, I think, has the advantage over them in the 3-point. They have that advantage over them. They can shoot the three better, I feel like. So I think that's going to be an interesting game too.
Yeah, and that game should be streamed as well on the TSJW network. So we've got some good games coming up this week, and those were the games of the week. And I overlooked some of the other games from those nights. Of course, the 16U game. So obviously, Victor's Counselors, we got 16U. The first time those two teams met in 16U, the Counselors won by 3 points, and that was the first 16U game of the season, and that turned out to be the closest one the Counselors have played. They won 37-34. So very close one there. What are you thinking heading into that one?
I think you have to take that first game, crumble it up, throw it in the trash, right? Too early to take much from it. These teams have gotten to practice more. They've got to gel more in game situations. I can't call it. I honestly cannot call it. I think it's going to be a good game. I do think possibly I think Muddy River has the advantage, right? I think they have the advantage because, I mean, the way that they can run the court, I mean, it comes from camaraderie, right? They know each other's style of play. I think Muddy River has a small advantage, but I can't call it.
Yeah. So, thing about the Counselors this year, they're 7-0 in 16U, but it's always due to execution and good play. It's not due to just walking out on the court and putting on the chocolate brown jersey and winning. That's not how it works. It's got to be execution there. So then also, obviously, we've got 16U, the Counselors, and the Laurel Knighthawks. And that PCA game is definitely a wake-up call for the Counselors as well, knowing that this is not going to be this might not be the same as the first time, because the first time, of course, the Counselors were able to get a big win over the Nighthawks by a good margin. But you cannot again, execution is a big thing. And so the Nighthawks were executing very well against the PCA Paladins. What are you seeing from that game? Obviously, you're going to be in it. So what are you thinking from that game?
I think both teams. I think Laurel mostly. Like I said before, they really didn't have a chance to really play together much, and they started playing together against PCA. And when that happens, like Muddy River, when you execute, basketball is that type of game. When you execute, you will do great things, right? It's not a guaranteed win, but your chances of winning go up. And I think Muddy River is great at executing, and I think Laurel has come around and they're getting great. They're finding a way to execute. I think that this is going to be a good game to watch.
For sure. And so that will wrap up our show right here. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Podcast. Thank you very much, Ollie. And man, looking forward to a big time week of MSAHA basketball. Definitely should be interesting. And really, those games, a lot of them will be right there on the TSJW Network YouTube. So please go ahead and subscribe. Put your notifications on. That'll let you know when we upload and also when the stream starts for the games as well. But one thing I do want to say before we leave is please send clips of plays so that we can have some plays of the week on this one. I did get one. I got one highlight video sent in, and that was awesome. Some good highlights there from John Crenshaw on the Scott County Flames. He's been having a great year for them in 16U, which Scott County has done very well, holding on to the 3 spot right now. So that should be interesting. Throwing a little monkey wrench in there. But John Crenshaw, he sent in his highlights. We would love to have more clips sent in to the TSJW Network email account, tsjwnetwork@gmail.com. So please go there and send in your clips. But Ollie, man, thank you for doing this one again, and looking forward to next week for the next one. See what happened in the last week.
Same here.
So for sure. And so thank you for joining us. I'm Trellis Williams, and this is MSAHA Basketball Weekly. Thank you for joining us. We out.